The flashing red and blue lights didn't just illuminate the street, they froze it. Neighbors stood scattered across their lawns, some barefoot, some still holding their phones mid-scroll, all staring at the same unbelievable scene. Karen, the once self-proclaimed authority of the neighborhood, was being escorted out of her house by federal agents. Not local police, not HOA security. Federal agents? Her hands were cuffed behind her back, her expression flickering between outrage and disbelief as if reality itself had betrayed her. Someone whispered almost involuntarily, "How did it even get this far?" No one answered, because no one really knew how something so small had spiraled so completely out of control. Or maybe they did, because just days ago everything looked normal. Quiet streets, routine deliveries, the kind of predictable calm people take for granted, until one moment broke that illusion. One decision, one confrontation, one package. That's all it took to unravel everything. Karen had built and exposed something far bigger than anyone expected. And the strangest part? It didn't feel real. Not yet, because stories like this don't start with chaos. They start quietly, almost invisibly. So let's rewind. A few days earlier, the neighborhood looked like the kind of place people moved to for peace. Clean sidewalks, trimmed hedges, and that quiet rhythm of daily life that made everything feel predictable. Mornings started with garage doors opening in sync, afternoons drifted by with distant lawn mowers, and by evening the streets settled into a calm that felt almost rehearsed. Nothing about it suggested chaos. Nothing hinted at what was coming. Karen, however, had a way of disturbing that balance without raising her voice. She carried herself like someone who believed rules weren't just meant to be followed, but enforced, preferably by her. As the HOA president, she didn't just manage the neighborhood. She controlled it. From the shade of someone's curtains to the angle of a parked car, everything seemed to fall under her watchful eye. People didn't argue with her. Not because they agreed, but because it was easier not to. Then there was the mailman. Calm, steady, almost invisible in the best way. He moved through the neighborhood like part of its routine, offering polite nods, delivering packages without delay, never rushing, never intruding. People trusted him without thinking about it. And then there was Spencer. The kind of neighbor who noticed things but didn't go looking for trouble. Easygoing, practical, the voice of reason when things felt off. Because even before that day, something about Karen's behavior had started to shift. Small moments. Easy to dismiss, but just enough to leave a quiet question lingering in the air. That afternoon felt no different at first. The sun hung high, the air still, and the familiar white mail truck rolled slowly down the street like it always did. The mailman stepped out, adjusting his cap, moving with the same calm efficiency everyone had come to expect. It was routine, predictable, safe until it wasn't. Karen appeared almost out of nowhere, heels striking the pavement with purpose. She didn't wave, didn't greet him. She walked straight into his path and stopped him cold, her posture rigid, her expression already set. "Before you go any further," she said, her tone sharp but controlled, "I need to check those packages." The mailman blinked, caught off guard for a second, then gave a small, polite smile. "Ma'am, I can't do that. These are federal deliveries." Karen didn't move. If anything, she leaned in slightly as if proximity alone gave her more authority. "As HOA president, it's my responsibility to ensure everything coming into this neighborhood is safe." There was a pause, the kind that stretches just long enough to make people uncomfortable. He shifted the stack in his hands. "I understand your concern, but that's not how this works. I'm required to deliver these as addressed." Something in her expression hardened, as a line had just been crossed in her mind. "So you're refusing?" she asked quietly. And just like that, what should have been a simple delivery turned into something else entirely. The air shifted in a way that didn't feel subtle anymore. Karen stepped to the side, but not to move away, to block him completely. Her arm extended just enough to create a barrier, her body angled as she had already decided this wasn't a discussion, it was a standoff. The mailman hesitated, then tried to step around her, keeping his movements calm, measured. She mirrored him instantly, closing the gap again. "Ma'am, you need to step aside," he said, firmer now, though still controlled. Interfering with mail delivery is a federal offense. That word should have ended it. For most people, it would have. But Karen didn't flinch. If anything, it seemed to fuel something deeper, something more stubborn. "Don't try to intimidate me," she replied, her voice rising just enough to carry. "You're on private property, and I have every right to inspect what comes through here." Across the street, a door creaked open. Spencer stepped out, squinting slightly as he took in the scene. At first, he didn't move, just watched, like he was trying to understand how something so ordinary had turned so tense. Then he walked closer, his tone grounded but direct. "Karen, what's going on?" She didn't even look at him fully, just gestured toward the packages. "He's refusing a standard HOA check." Spencer frowned. "That's not a thing." The mailman tried again, shifting his weight, clearly running out of patience. "This is your final warning. I need to complete my route." But Karen didn't step back. She stepped forward, and in that small, deliberate movement, the line between control and confrontation disappeared completely. The moment it happened didn't feel loud at first. It felt wrong in a quieter way, like the air itself had paused, waiting for someone to correct it. The mailman shifted again, trying to move past her one last time, careful not to escalate things further. But Karen stepped in sharply, her patience finally breaking into something physical. Her hand shot out and grabbed his arm. "Don't ignore me!" she snapped. He tried to pull back. Startled now, his voice rising just slightly. "Ma'am, stop. This is not—" But she shoved him. Hard. The stack of envelopes slipped from his hands, scattering across the driveway like a sudden break in reality. His foot lost balance on the edge of the pavement, and in the next instant he hit the ground with a heavy, jarring thud. His cap rolled a few feet away and stopped near the curb. For a second, nobody moved. No one spoke. Even the neighborhood seemed to go still, like it didn't know how to respond. Then someone gasped. Spencer pulled out his phone immediately, his voice sharp now. "Call 911, now!" The mailman sat up slowly, wincing, one hand gripping his wrist as he tried to steady his breathing. His eyes locked on Karen, not with anger yet, but with certainty. "That's assault," he said quietly. "You just assaulted a federal employee." And for the first time, Karen didn't have a response. Sirens broke through the silence a few minutes later, cutting sharply down the street as two patrol cars pulled in and stopped without hesitation. The atmosphere shifted instantly. What had been confusion turned into something official, something irreversible. Officers stepped out quickly, taking in the scattered envelopes, the shaken mailman, and Karen still standing near the driveway like she couldn't quite process that control had slipped from her hands. One officer asked for statements. Another reviewed Spencer's phone footage in silence, his expression tightening as the shove replayed on screen. There was no debate after that. No long discussion. Just procedure. "Ma'am, you're going to need to come with us," one of them said. Karen blinked, finally breaking her stillness. "You don't understand. This is an HOA matter." But the words didn't land anymore. Within minutes, handcuffs clicked into place, and the reality she had resisted all afternoon became unavoidable. By evening, the video was everywhere. A neighbor's recording had already been uploaded, first to group chats, then to social media, then beyond anything local. The caption didn't need explanation. The footage spoke for itself. "Federal mail carrier assaulted during delivery." Comments piled up. Shares multiplied. Screenshots spread faster than anyone in the neighborhood could track, and then came the official confirmation. Federal charges were being filed. Inside the HOA, panic set in immediately. Board members started calling each other, deleting messages, revisiting old emails, suddenly realizing this wasn't just neighborhood drama anymore. It had escalated far beyond their control, and there was no undoing what had already been seen. The court case moved fast once the footage, witness statements, and federal reports lined up. Karen tried to argue misunderstanding, but the evidence left no space for denial. The sentence came down firmly: federal charges, heavy fines, and years away from the neighborhood she once controlled. Her influence collapsed overnight, reduced to paperwork and headlines. The mailman recovered and returned to duty, this time greeted with quiet respect that followed him everywhere he went. The HOA, shaken and embarrassed, voted in new leadership, choosing stability over control, and in the end, the irony lingered. One delivery route had delivered consequences no one saw coming. If this story shocked you, like, subscribe, and tell us, what would you have done in that situation?